everybody, welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Zach.
And I'm Seth.
We're the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
We are. That's who we are. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Wow. Yeah.
Always classic, never classy.
Always classy. No, we're never classy.
By far never classy.
We tell people that we're sometimes classy, but we haven't been classy yet.
We have yet to be classy. Maybe we should have a classy episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about classy video games.
Classy video games. Like, I don't know. The first thing that jumps to my mind when I think of a classy video game, I'm thinking Titanic Out of Time.
There we go. That's a classy video game. You're on the Titanic. You are
out of time.
You're out of time. Two things that are notoriously classy: being out of time and on the Titanic.
It's true, especially if you have a pocket watch. That makes being out of time that much better.
Yeah, it's true.
So this is our episode that will come out closest to Halloween.
Yes, it will.
And we did have our Urban Legends episode that just came out in the previous week.
It was very spooky.
It was very spooky. So we thought we'd stay in the theme of spooky episodes and scary episodes. And this episode will talk about a controversial video game, which we won't reveal until later on in the episode.
That's right, because Seth, we still need to do our recently plays.
That's true, but the episode name won't give it away.
Right,
for once.
Right.
So Zach, I'll go first.
Okay.
So recently, well, your recently played is more thematically appropriate.
It is.
So let's talk about mine first because it's not. So I mentioned that I was playing Baldur's Gate in a previous episode. I think I mentioned I was playing 3 and I was also playing 1. So I'm now playing Baldur's Gate Siege of the Dragon Spear. I keep wanting to say Sphere.
One of our favorite games is Dragon Sphere.
It is. This is a good game. It's called Dragon Spear. Released in 2016. Baldur's Gate Siege of the Dragon Spear is a game that was developed by Beamdog, which did the enhanced edition of Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2. It is off of the Baldur's Gate 1 setup. So they enhanced both Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2. So if this makes any sense, Baldur's Gate 1, after the Enhanced Edition, is similar to Baldur's Gate 2 when it comes to the UI, but is also decidedly its own thing. Where before, when it was Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2, the original games, they were very different when it came to their UI. Siege of the Dragon Spear plays more akin to Baldur's Gate 1 versus Baldur's Gate 2.
Oh, okay.
And it almost feels like a very large expansion pack to Baldur's Gate 1, which also had an expansion pack, but is decidedly its own game. And you could make your own character to play in Dragon Spear, or you can import your character from Baldur's Gate 1. You can, in fact, play the same Baldur's Gate 1 character through Dragon Spear and into Baldur's Gate 2 to have like you could have a character go through what ends up being 40, 80, probably 140 hours worth of video gaming, 130
That's cool.
hours. Yeah, it's kind of like the Mass Effect trilogy.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, except in Mass Effect, you're really only playing one character that you just designed differently.
Correct. You're only playing as Commander Shepard.
Where
in Baldur's Gate you're playing a very unique character. All the characters do have something in common, that they are all children of Baal, who is the god of murder. Being that he's the god of murder, he foresaw his own death. So before he died, he had a lot of children, and they are called Baal spawns.
Oh,
and you play as one of them.
Kind of a silly word.
Yes, being a Baal spawn.
Yeah.
You are a spawn of Baal, and then Baal got whacked. And then he died.
Spoiler alert.
Murdered.
Wow.
Well, no, that's not a spoiler alert.
Oh, okay. We'll have to do like a whole Baldur's Gate episode, I think, breaking down the lore of Baldur's Gate, if you would.
Yes, indeed. We could do something like that. But for now, Zach, what have you recently been playing?
Well, Seth, I've recently been playing a game with you, so you should remember what I've recently been playing. But for those of you who aren't playing the game with me, like my brother is, I've recently been playing Sign of Silence, which was a game that was on my buy weight pass back when it was a few episodes ago, I think, that I was on my buy weight pass. So I did end up purchasing it. Seth bought it too. So Sign of Silence is a game by Renderize. It was developed and published by them this year, and it came out actually in October of 2020. And it's a 4-player cooperative horror game set in the dreadful outskirts of Danville, in Massachusetts, I think. So it's pretty much you have to escape the place or stick around and try to find secrets and stuff and avoid scary monsters that don't like it if you make noise. And so far I've enjoyed it. It's very spooky. It has a lot of jump scares, which isn't quite the kind of horror that I always like, but I'd certainly had fun playing with Seth when we did play, and I'll definitely play it again before October's over. So far it's a very buggy, but it's still fun to play. I don't mind the bugs. I think the bugs can be funny. One of my favorite bugs was where my character kept standing on top of Seth's character, and then I fell off of him and died. So it was like I was playing Leapfrog to death.
Yes. In fact, you took, I think, 130 damage.
Yes.
From falling on top of me.
I took more damage falling off of Seth's body than I took like getting attacked by a monster temporarily.
Yes.
It was bad.
Yes. I'm a very dangerous person. You shouldn't climb on top of me.
So that's what I've been playing. I'm enjoying it. It's a nice little horror game to play with my brother, which it's fun playing games with my brother.
That's true. Just don't play games like me.
Yes. We'll make that joke again, I guess.
I mean, I'll always make that joke. So we mentioned in the episode title that this was going to be an episode about one of the most controversial games out there to date. One of the most controversial games. And it's not going to be Manhunt. It's not going to be Grand Theft Auto. In our opinion, the most controversial game was
Night Trap.
So, Night Trap, which... Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Night Trap was?
Yeah, so Night Trap isn't probably a game that a lot of people might have heard of if you're not super familiar with controversial games. Night Trap was an interactive movie video game developed by Digital Pictures for the Sega CD in 1992. So the Sega CD, for those who don't know, was an add-on to the Sega Genesis, very similar to the Sega 32X, which we talked a bit about in our Sega Saturn episode. It was a CD-based add-on, as the name Sega CD implies. It was not as much of a failure as the 32X, but it was still not great. So in Night Trap, you take the role of a special agent who is tasked to watch over a teenage girl who is at a slumber party. Unbeknownst to this girl, though, the house is the target of a group of murderous, vampiric beings known as the Augurs. And during the game, you have to kind of like monitor the girl's whereabouts and trigger different traps and such to deter the Augurs from attacking her and draining her of her blood. So it's it's almost like an early Five Nights at Freddy's game in a way, because you're monitoring these like video cameras and you have to do certain things at the right time. The game is done in full motion video, meaning a majority of it is presented almost like being a movie. In the game, you toggle between multiple screens that are presented kind of like a closed circuit television camera system. You have like one screen and you kind of like toggle between multiple different views of the house. And if you like strung all of these scenes together, it gives you the full movie. The origin of the game can be traced back to a 1986 prototype that was being developed by Axlon for a video game system called the Control Vision. Now, the Control Vision was a VHS-based system that Hasbro was considering selling, being developed by Axlon. Ultimately, it was canceled and never finished because the price point for the Control Vision was projected to be almost $100 to $200 more than the Nintendo at the time. So it wouldn't have been a good competitor.
That's a great name for a game system.
Control Vision, yeah.
The Control Vision.
Yeah.
It's just like they should have just took the hyphen out and just made Control-O-Vision or something like that. That would have
been great, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been great. That would have been a great system.
It would have been. I mean, VHS-based, what can go wrong? The footage for Night Trap was recorded in 1987. And when the Control Vision was canceled, the executive director of Night Trap, Tom Zito, purchased the footage and founded his own company, Digital Pictures. Night Trap was officially released in 1992 for the Sega CD, which was 5 years after the filming had already finished. Production of Night Trap took over 6 months. It was a combination of filming and programming. The film was shot on 35mm and was directed by James Riley. The director of photography was Don Burgess, and for film buffs out there like myself, Don Burgess would actually later go on to shoot the Academy Award-winning film Forrest Gump. So, it's very good looking.
The production level is pretty high. It's got to be, right?
Yeah, well, he hadn't shot Forrest Gump yet.
but he's an Academy Award-winning...
Yeah, it's true. He became an Academy Award-winning director of photography. At the time of release, the game did receive mixed reviews. At one point, it even ranked 59 on a list of 100 worst video games of all time. To be fair, that list came out a little later, but still, not a great look. The game had a budget of $1.5 million, making it one of the most expensive games for the era. And while it did have mixed reviews, it was actually a commercial success. It sold over 400,000 units by 1998. And around that time, or a little before that time, the game was also ported over to other systems, such as the 3DO, MS-DOS, Mac OS, and a version that was actually made that used the Sega 32X add-on along with the Sega CD, which allowed it to kind of have a little bit more visual color palettes and such, because the 32X was a 32-bit system as opposed to using the Sega CD's 16-bit hardware. It was overall, I think, fondly remembered, however, due to some controversy that followed it. And Seth is the expert on controversy, so he's going to take it away from there.
That's right, especially government controversy.
That's right.
So put yourself back in your shoes. December 9th, 1993. A governmental affairs subcommittee on regulation and government information has a hearing, and it's led by Senators Joseph Lieberman and Herb Kohl of Connecticut and Wisconsin, respectively, which this hearing received major national news coverage, including being picked up by Washington Post and USA Weekly and all of those newspapers at the time. So this hearing reviewed two games, one of which being the very, very tame Mortal Kombat by Midway, the other being Night Trap. Now, as anybody is familiar with Mortal Kombat, there would be no reason whatsoever why a congressional hearing would need to oversee why Mortal Kombat would be brought into any slight being,
of course,
for any sense.
Mortal Kombat is a very tame, child-friendly game.
Exactly. Now, everyone should know that this is 1993, once again. So there is no ratings on video games. Video games just come out, and they could be for anybody. And there's no, they could have anything in it. So there was a game that we got as a family called the Orion Conspiracy, and we got it around 95, which was shortly after regulations came into play. I don't believe that it had an actual rating on it or how it got into my house, but I installed the game. It was an adventure game, and I went and played through the game, and it was full of racial slurs. And my dad saw the racial slurs on the screen, and it was uninstalled and removed from the house. And perhaps we'll go on and talk about the games such as the Orion Conspiracy. But it was right around, the Orion Conspiracy came out right around when ratings started to be a thing on video games.
Yeah, so while ratings weren't necessarily plastered on video games as they are now, different companies had different standards for what they considered mature content. So for example, Nintendo, when they released Mortal Kombat, they actually censored the blood, and this was before the M rating. So Nintendo was already taking steps to make sure that their games were appropriate for their audience. Meanwhile, Sega was a bit more lax on this. Sega actually included blood. You had to unlock it with a cheat, but I think they included the cheat in the instruction booklet for the game. So in many ways, while there wasn't necessarily a rating system, it was really more, there was just no cohesiveness. And if it was a PC game, I mean, it was, who knows? I mean, it was
right.
It was like a Wild West of games over there.
Back to the exciting congressional hearing. Senator Lieberman claimed that Night Trap promoted sexual aggression towards women and was, in his own words, teaching children to enjoy inflicting torture. However, also within his own words, Lieberman admitted to never have played the game and only witnessed a 30-second snippet in which, to quote a John Burgess's report of the congressional hearing, 3 black-suited assailants entered a bathroom, grabbed a young woman wearing a flimsy nightgown, then attached a long, hooked device to her neck to suck out the blood. Now, Tom Zito, who is the CEO of Digital Pictures, who brought his game out from that VHS situation and was the producer of Night Trap, knew that Night Trap was being brought in for a congressional hearing, so he went to the congressional hearing. Fun fact, Tom Zito also wrote for the Washington Post for many, many years and was a Washington, insider. He went to Georgetown. He grew up he worked at the Washington Post. He met these people that he'd went to the Hill before.
Yeah.
The Hill is being where Congress is. So he went to the Hill that day, and he was there when they announced that he was not in attendance. So the senators said that Tom Zito was not in the attendance of the hearing, so he was not able to speak, even though he was there. And he announced his presence. He was ignored by the senators. The senators, according to Tom, vilified Night Trap. They didn't know anything about the game, so they claimed the game was set in a sorority house. It wasn't. They claimed that there were meat hooks. There weren't. And there is no torture in the game. In fact, the game is deliberately supposed to feel like a low-budget parody vampire film. And to be honest, once the game was shot in 1987, so it was already starting to be out of date, even when it was released.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be a low-budget parody vampire film 5 years ago before it was released. So it definitely looked low budget. The objective of the game is, in fact, to protect the women and men in the house. And there's this old winery that's also part of the setting, where these almost converted vampires, the augurs, are attempting to finish their change into becoming undead by going in and getting the blood. So you're with this like special task force assigned to protect these people. And that's the whole purpose of the game. In fact, the game will end if you don't protect these people. Tom Zito would go on to saying that out of the 100 minutes of the video game footage, they took the only 30 seconds where there's this nightgown scene. And the nightgown is not even as provocative as many PG films of the time. And Rob Fulop was there. He was the designer of Night Trap, and he was pissed that his game was being compared to Mortal Kombat, which had this gratuitous amount of violence and gore. And to put the icing on the cake, a Nintendo senior vice president, a guy by the name of Howard Lincoln, testified in front of the committee and stated Night Trap would never appear on a Nintendo system because it did not pass the guidelines that they enforced at the time. Rob, the designer, tried to explain it was because Nintendo lacked the technical ability since the game was released on CD-ROM. So there were no Nintendo systems that could play the game. Hence why Night Trap was not on Nintendo. Not because of this moral high ground that Nintendo was trying to take. And many critics at the time believed that Nintendo was deliberately wording their statements because Night Trap was on Sega CD, which was a direct competitor of Nintendo. So these hearings went on, and what came of them? Well, in the following week, 50,000 copies of Night Trap were sold. It's, as Zachary noted earlier, 400,000 copies were sold from 1993 to 1998. Of those 400,000, 50,000 of them were sold in 1 week. However, 2 weeks prior to Christmas of that year, the game was removed from store shelves in the two of the largest toy retailers at the time, Toys R Us and KB Toys, both of whom are defunct. And this is because they were pulled from these two retailer shelves because both of the retailers received numerous complaints, which were probably an organized phone movement. Fun fact, they continue to stock Mortal Kombat, though. So I guarantee you those retailers looked at the two controversial games and said, which one will not sell as much? Night Trap. Let's fall on our sword, get rid of Night Trap, and continue to sell Mortal Kombat.
And I think the thing that's kind of ridiculous is that I've played Night Trap. I haven't beat it because it's not a good game. But the thing with Night Trap is that it isn't even like, yeah, the augurs are taking blood from people, but you don't see blood being taken. It's not like a gory game. They put in like this very kind of comical giant syringe into the person, I think like in the back, so you don't even see it go in, the individual. It's very deliberate in how they kind of frame the violence so that it's never actually explicit. Whereas in Mortal Kombat, there's a character who can rip the skeleton out of a person.
Yes.
But
Mortal Kombat was continued to be sold in the two largest retailers where Night Trap was pulled out. If you watch any of the footage from Night Trap, you can even watch the footage that was brought, the 30 seconds that the senators watched. You can see that it is, even for that time, deliberately ridiculous. So in January of 1994, Night Trap was withdrawn from the market by Sega. Vice President of Marketing Bill White stated that it was pulled due to the, quote, continued controversy surrounding it, which prevented constructive dialogue about an industry-wide rating system. Bill also defended the game, officially saying from Sega it was misunderstood by the senators and was a parody of vampire melodramas. In January of 95, they released a censored version of the game. Because of Night Trap and the whole controversy in regards to the congressional hearing, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, was created in 1994, which is still used today to rate video games, and is actually, in my opinion, one of the best self-governing. It's a good thing for video games at the end of the day. I think that the creation of the ESRB has allowed the video games industry to self-regulate itself, so that a dangerous precedent of the government regulating video games or the government blaming video games for things didn't happen. So the ESRB came out, and the game Night Trap does have an M rating for mature. The interesting thing that also came up because of this was that the senators, specifically Joe Lieberman, viewed video games as this corrupting influence onto children, because he viewed video games as a toy and as something that only children played. However, Tom Zito realized that the kids who were playing Atari were now growing up, and they wanted more mature games to reflect. They weren't going to stop playing video games, but they just wanted video games that were more adult. He was playing to that audience. He never wanted somebody under 17 playing Night Trap. He didn't feel that Night Trap was meant for kids. It shouldn't have been sold to kids. He primarily marketed to an older adult group, which, to be honest, I was a kid. I wouldn't want to play Night Trap.
Yeah. Like, it isn't. Yeah. I mean, the only reason I ended up even getting the copy that I have was because it was inexpensive. I bought and I'll talk about the kind of Night Trap's legacy. It was actually remastered. But I bought the remaster just because I think it was like $1 when I bought it.
Right. It's like $1, right? Like, it's not a great game. But to be fair, it probably would not have sold as well if it didn't get this controversy, which stems back to there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, it's true. And one thing I think is funny is that the designer of Night Trap, Rob Fulop, actually was so upset about what happened with Night Trap and this whole congressional hearing that he went on to found his own company to create a game that what he wanted to be the exact opposite of Night Trap. So he went on to create a company called PF Magic, which later went on to create the game Balls for Sega Genesis, and also went on to create Pets, Dogs, Cats, and Oddballs.
Yeah, which we've spoken about before.
Yeah, and I do think that those games are definitely the exact opposite of Night Trap.
I think they're the exact opposite of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So Zach, why don't you give us the legacy part of this?
Yeah, Night Trap wasn't completely forgotten about after this congressional hearing. Night Trap was remastered and re-released in April of 2017 to mark the 25th anniversary. And the re-release was spearheaded by a company called Hoggle's Screaming Villains, which is a great name for a company. And it was released for the PS4, the Xbox One, and Windows. And the company Limited Run Games actually offered a physical release for a limited time. The physical release is cool. It uses, I think they have a version with the original artwork, kind of looks like a Sega CD case, and then they have another version with the updated artwork for the re-release back in the later part of the 90s. In August of 2018, the anniversary was released on the Nintendo Switch, meaning that Howard Lincoln was wrong in his 1993 congressional congressional hearing.
And let me say that for the record, I want to state that Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo system.
And it did eventually come out on a Nintendo system.
Right, once it had the appropriate hardware to play it.
It only took them to the Switch.
I think Night Trap was partly a victim of a lot of unfortunate circumstances to itself. I mean, starting with the control vision, right? It was originally designed for the system that never even happened. Let's pretend that there was a world where the control vision existed. And it came out in like 1988. And it came out with this brand new technology and using this, and it was played on a VHS. Like, would it have gone to a congressional hearing and would it have sold as well or poorly, or would it have sold more? Like, these are some things that could have happened. Instead, it was someone somewhere saw 30 seconds of this video game and got it to the Senate level of issues where the senators beat it, and they beat it to where we needed to self-regulate as a video game industry.
Yeah, that's Night Trap. It left a lasting impact on the gaming culture, as it were. It left a lasting impact on gaming here in America. And you know what? To be honest, it's not even that good. So,
in fact, they did create a Kickstarter from the original creators who created a company. The original creators created a company called Night Trap LLC, and they were going to make a sequel to the original game, and they were going to re-release other digital picture titles that they created. They had a Kickstarter. They needed $330,000. They got $39,000. The Kickstarter failed, and the rest is history. The game was not a good game and got beat up by senators.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't think it didn't deserve that. But you know, it definitely is an interesting part of history, I for sure. That is our Night Trap episode. It's kind of a different sort of kind of creepy, I guess, for or different kind of scary for Halloween, the fear of bureaucracy. But that is our Night Trap episode, and we're going to now go into our Buy Wait Pass segment, where we're going to talk about games that we are excited about buying, waiting, or passing on. And Seth, you went first for your recently played, so you can go first for your Buy Wait Pass.
Well, thank you. So my Buy Wait Pass is a game called Partisans 1941. It came out on October 14th of 2020. It was developed by Alter Games, and it was published by Daedalic Entertainment. Partisans is a real-time tactical game with stealth elements that's set on the Eastern Front of World War II. You play as an army commander behind enemy lines, and you gather a group of partisans who are Parisian resistance forces to wage a guerrilla warfare against the Germans who are occupying Paris and France. It is a very Commandos, Desperados, any of those other O's games type of game. We actually played it. I think it's still available on YouTube as part of our Steam summer review of the summer festival.
Oh yeah.
We played. I want to say we played probably 5-10 minutes of it.
I think we played a good chunk of it, I think.
Yeah, and I think you walked away during half of it.
I think I was busy during part of it, yeah.
But so we played the demo. It was good. I enjoyed it. It did play very similar to like a Commandos type game. So right now, I'm going to put it down as a wait, and I feel like I'll pick it up when I get in the mood to play this type of game where I want to play a Commandos type tactical real-time game.
It does seem like your kind of game, though, in terms, because I know you do like tactical games of that nature.
Right. Yeah, I have to be in the mood for it.
That's fair.
I think. But then I'll probably get it. But yeah, I'll put it down as a wait.
So the game that I am going to be putting down as in terms of my Buy Wait Pass, I'll hold off on any spoilers for what my status of it is a game called Rogue. Rogue was originally released on June 1st of 1985. And it was originally released for Unix-based mainframes and then ported to various other operating systems. And now Rogue is the original roguelike. It was a game that was open source, and you explored a series of dungeons in search of this thing called the Amulet of Yendor. And for those who don't know, roguelikes usually follow a couple of kind of standards in terms of gameplay. So traditionally, they are permadeath, which means when your character dies, your character is dead. And when you restart the game, you're playing as a new character who has all new stats, has new inventory, etc., etc. Another thing that's common in roguelikes is procedural generation. So the dungeons are randomly generated, which means it provides a unique experience every time. Rogue, I think, is kind of an interesting game to be coming out in 2020. I think it's actually due out later this month or next month, because it's not like this is a remaster or a remake. It's the original game with the original ASCII style artwork. It didn't even use graphics. It used text for its graphics at the time, so it didn't even have sprites. So just kind of an odd little thing to be coming out in 2020 on as an official Windows 10 release, but it's probably going to be a buy for me. I do love old games. I would prefer to play it on an old computer, but there was not an official port for the Apple II, nor was there a VIC-20 port, and those are the two old computers that I currently own. I either have to find an unofficial port for the Apple II, or I just have to suck it up and play it on my Windows 10. So probably a buy. I do like old games.
Great. And so that's going to be our most controversial game ever episode.
Yeah.
Most controversial game stop ever. Stop.
Yes. We are getting into the clickbait category.
That's right. Speaking of clickbait, there should be ways that you can contact us, support us, or listen to us. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, why not? So, let's say you want to contact us, listen to us, and support us. Well, I've got good news for you, because those are 3 things that I'm going to tell you how to do in this next couple of minutes. So in order to contact us, you can do so via your email. And in your email, you just go to your email, you do new message, and then you type to classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. Or you can do classicgamingbrothers@classicgamingbrothers.com. You could put that email in the CC, then we'll get 2 emails from you. They both go to the same address, so it's no worries. But we thought it'd be funny to have our email be classicgamingbrothers@classicgamingbrothers.com. Send us an email. It will go into our Gmail, and Seth will read it and will respond to you, or I might read it and maybe respond to you. I'm very bad at checking our email, and I apologize for that, but Seth is much better at it, so I don't need to really apologize. If you do email us, you will win a chance to get a free video game. Seth has a list of games that he's willing to give away, and you will be thrown into our drawing, so you'll be on the chance for that. You can also go to our website, which is classicgamingbrothers.com, and you can fill out a contact form there. The contact form works very similarly to email, except you're not using an email client, but it is required that you have an email when you're filling out our contact form. So it's like you have an email, but you're just not using your email. But
it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we just like giving you options. If you use the email, if you use the contact form, you'll also be entered into a chance to win a video game. Those are the ways you can contact us. You can also do so via our different social medias that we have. We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, and we have a Twitter. Our Facebook and Instagram are both Classic Gaming Brothers, and our Twitter is CG Brothers Pod. So you can feel free to follow us on those and reach out to us on those if you feel like it. In order to support us, really, one of the best ways that you can support us is just listening to our episode. It's retweeting our stuff when you see it on Twitter, or reposting our stuff when you see it on Facebook, sharing it. Following us on those social media applications are great, and reaching out to us. Those are some great ways that you can support us. Those are probably the best ways that you can support us. You can also buy our merch. We do have a shirt, and we have a mug for sale on our website. We're probably due for a re-update of those at some point. But you know what? If you want to buy some of our merch, feel free. We like to say definitely don't feel obligated to. You listening is probably the best support that we can have.
Yeah, you can also review us on whatever podcasting app that you use.
Yeah. So comment, subscribe, do all the things that you need to do, ring bells, anything that you need to do in order to let us know that you're listening, let us know that you like us. It always is appreciated. We always like to see feedback. And any kind of feedback, if you want to tell Seth and I that, you didn't like maybe a topic that we talked about, or maybe you thought my audio was messed up or Seth's audio was bad, or maybe you thought we didn't handle a topic well enough and you kind of want us to revisit it, let us know. We want negative feedback as well as positive feedback. Both are very helpful for us and both will support us. So please do that. Now, if you want to listen to us, the good news is we are available on pretty much every podcasting application that's out there. So Spotify, Amazon, we're on Google, we're on Castbox, Stitcher, all those, iHeartRadio, everything. We're available on anything. But if there's anything that we're not available on, you can send us an email and we will try our best to get on that, because we want to be on everything. Seth and I want to have a total control over the entire podcasting universe and reach out with our feelings and take control of every application out there. That's our master plan. We also have a Twitch, and we have two Twitches actually. We have a main Twitch, Classic Gaming Brothers, and we have my screen, which occasionally I stream from when my internet's behaving. That's VS Classic Gaming Brothers, and those are where we do our primary streaming. Sometimes I just go on the Classic Gaming Brothers and I stream without Seth, but we like to stream together because we're brothers and we like to play video games together. It's what we did growing up. So check us out there. We don't have a schedule because we're very bad at Twitch. Kind of like how we're bad at video games. We're bad at Twitch. So we don't have a schedule. We go live when we feel like it.
But
and when we're both free.
We are very good at releasing a podcast on Sunday.
That's right. We will always release an episode of this podcast. We might not always stream. So definitely follow us on Twitch though. And if you see us live, feel free to say hi, feel free to chat with us. We love to talk to our fans. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm probably forgetting something, but whatever. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else though. Seth, is there something else?
Don't play games like my brother.
Don't play games like my brother. I've been Zach.
I've been Seth.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
That's right.
Now, we're also repelled. We're disgusted by this material. And yet it is a measure of our values in this society that we resist the impulse to do what I think, let me say for myself, I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to pass a law saying you can't produce this stuff anymore. We don't do that because we value our freedoms.